I want to tell you that this talk is pure slop, okay? So I'm going to get things wrong, but hopefully you will see how far slop can take you. And I'm not kidding, every element of this talk is slop. Not only are the slides slop, but all the code I'm going to show you is also slop. I have no idea what's in there. The only thing that's not slop is the original conception. Most of you all here are working software engineers? Okay. And how many of you have tried to build an agent yourself? Or built an agent yourself? What did you build it?
I built this agent for predicting weather. Predicting weather.
Okay. Predicting weather. Okay. How many of you have OpenClaw set up? Okay. How was it? How long ago did you get it?
Several months ago.
Several months ago. And are you still using it?
Yes.
Okay. The experience like?
It was painful to begin with. It's like a child. You get used to it, you make sure it's not making those silly mistakes, and eventually you fall in.
Understood. That is also pure slop, by the way, except for certain components. No, slop in the hands of a master can still be okay, you know. All right, and what do you use it for?
So typically it goes through my email. I don't check my SMS. It goes through my messages. It pulls interesting threads from archive, Twitter. In effect, I don't want to spend a lot of time on these places.
Yeah.
It does the pruning for me.
Understood. Anyone else?
I couldn't adapt. I found it time consuming.
Yeah.
So I just stopped using it.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. How many of you have heard of Erlang? Okay. This is a glaring omission in my slides. I have not explained what is Erlang. Anyone heard of Elixir? The beam? Hold on a second. Please add a slide on what is Erlang/beam. Okay. I'm here to talk about an agent that I built. For those of you who don't know, I used to be CTO of Shadi.com, yes. But today I am the founder of SVS Recruiting. I am an engineering leader turned recruiter. And my basic advice to anyone trying to survive this change is build agents, write about it. Because the agents are looking for you. Hiring managers have deployed agents to search for people who are building agents. So if you don't even have a personal website and you're not talking about building agents over there, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. And if you're not building agents and not figuring out how this works, because there is, of course, everyone is using Cloud Code, right? Or Codex or something. Yes? 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 If you're not, can you raise your hand if you're not using a coding agent today? What? What are you, hardware engineer? Then?
I prefer chat-based better. I don't want the AI to touch my code that much.
Meet me after the show. But I got fed up of agents that were meant for work. Like, I don't really want to spend all my time working. I want a nice agent for the rest of my life. Okay? And now I'm very sorry, but when you see what all is in my agent, you will see how sad my life is, but it's okay. I'm willing to be vulnerable for the sake of the greater good. And so I started building an agent. And when I started building the agent, actually out of rage, because I saw OpenClaw and I said, "Ye kya bakwas?" Bakwas. Why is it bakwas? Anyone have an opinion on why OpenClaw is bakwas?
Setup.
Huh?
The setup.
The setup. I haven't packaged my agent into a deployable thing yet. So I'm not going to judge someone. Maybe I end up with the same shitty setup as OpenClaw. I don't want to judge that. But OpenClaw is bakwas because it makes you talk to the agent on Telegram. This is absurd. It is absurd. It's absurd because, and here's the product thinking part of it, right? In Telegram, I can have one chat. Do I want one chat with the agent? No. I want to have hundreds of chats with the agent because I'm lonely and no one else will talk to me. But also, context management behind that chat is not really in your hands. And we all know that context is king for agents. So one of them is I want separate chats for separate things. And then I want the agent to do things on its own for me. And I want the whole experience to be nice. And most importantly, I want the agent to learn more and more and grow and adapt with me. So then comes the choice. What do we use? Before that, I will give you a demo and then we'll talk about the choices and why I arrived at the Beam. As you can see, there's the home page, there's chats, there's agents, and then there's a bunch of tools, okay? As you all know, an agent harness is a model plus tools and something that glues them together, right? Instead of having one agent, you obviously also want multiple agents. As a first cut, I made a clock agent. All it does, every second, it runs the command and sends the time to the front end. How many of you have this problem at work? Something happens on the server and you need to show it on the front end. And what do you use for that?
SSR.
SSR nahi re, live it has to go. SSE.
Server sent event.
Okay, or?
WebSockets.
WebSockets, right? And how do you do this in React? I don't know anything about React, by the way.
There's a client server, server sends event, the client renders it.
Okay.
So two different components.
Got it. Okay. Then I said, okay, we need a real agent. Okay, so I built an agent which says, send me one fact about the Chola dynasty every day. Okay, and so it does, not only does that, it also goes to Gemini, a nano banana, and generates an image, because you will not believe this, so there are not many images of the Chola dynasty on the internet. Strange, even I don't get it, right? And if you want to see how it is done, right, this is how you set up each agent. Okay, some identity, what model you want to use for it, how often you want to refresh it, the system prompt, which tools it has access to. This was the first chat with it, and it went to the internet, it found one chat and fact and so on, and it kept forgetting which facts it had shown me. So I had to tell it, okay, please save your facts that you've already shown me, don't repeat yourself. I'm tired of hearing about this Brihadeshwara temple 7 days in a row, so please, okay? And the important thing here is that you can make the agent just by chatting with Karinda. Karinda, by the way, is also slop. The name itself, I said, please give me a Indian sounding name for, you know what is a major domo? In the big houses, they were the butler, the main, not the butler, okay? Butler is like a personal thing. The major domo, domus, house, domicile, and the major as in the big guy. So the head of your staff is your major domo. And I said, give me an Indian sounding word for major domo, and it said Karinda, which is clearly from our Persian heritage. But I mean, the name is also slop. If you have a better name for it, I'm open to suggestions. Okay. Now you have this, right? And anytime it gives you a fact, you can say, every time the agent returns with something for today, you can say, tell me more. And here's the thing, you can just close the chat and go off and do something else. This simple thing is a huge problem in so many coding agents that, yeah, I've told you to do something. Now what, you want me to sit here and stare at you while you do it? No. Bugger off and let me know when you're done. This also sends notifications, but they're not working right now. Here's a slightly more complicated agent. Okay, who's into metal? Okay. For most of y'all, it's too late. You have to get into metal when you're 13 or 14. It's too late for y'all. I'm sorry. So this is the highest quality of life improvement that any AI agent has ever brought to me. I've been to 4 gigs. I went for the Uday Benegal show yesterday. It was not bad. Okay. If you went with 0 expectations, it was actually amazing. Okay. Now look at this. Okay. Did you see that? This is an agent that can render its own widget. And not only can it render its own widget, it can render rich widgets. It's not dead widget. Of course, with HTML, everything is rich. I'm an old man, so I'd go towards the older technologies, which I feel are better. But agents write a XML file. And what you see over here is a XSLT transform. All of this garbage y'all are doing with JSON and Mustache. Who uses Mustache? Handlebars. So Mustache and Handlebars are what, logicless templates. XSLT is actually Turing complete. Okay, and you can put any transformation into XSLT. It will take your XML and turn it into anything, including XHTML, which just works, right?
What language does it use for the Turing completeness?
XSLT, it's a language, right? So this also, I think this runs every day, maybe it's too much, but you can see like this is the prompt, it tells it what XML to do, the XSLT at agents renders this into the widget. Every agent also has an agent creator factory, which will tell the agent that when you're done updating the XML, please compile the XSLT and see if it breaks or not, etc. All of these guardrails you have to put into your this thing. Okay, users can say not interested in X, it will mark this thing, okay. And this is, the agent keeps updating itself as it learns about me. Now one open item is, you want to do embeddings on the previous chats and allow the agent to ask questions of its previous interactions with you, but that's going to be slop coded later, okay. ये रंजीत वालुंजा आए थे last time. So in their talk, the man, erudite and wise man, ऐसा धाड़ करके उन्होंने गीता का एक श्लोक सुनाया, बराबर? तो वो देख के मेरे को फोमो हो गया, ऐसा अपन को भी ऐसा करने को आना मांगता. So I made an agent which feeds me one verse of the Gita every day. And as you can see, we are on day 3 or something, right? It's actually fascinating, like, because if you read the Gita yourself, you will not understand a darn thing. And if you read the commentaries, they are like that thick. तो वो देख के ही फट जाता है. इसमें one thing is, I don't know how much further I have to go, right? It's not apparent. And he pulls the commentaries from Gandhi, from Shankara, from Jnaneshwari, from Gita Press, and Radha Krishna also wrote this thing. So even those simple verses, if you like really contemplate them, they open themselves up. अभी इसको याद करके ऐसा बोलना remains an aspiration, but at least I have taken the first step, right? Then of course, monsoon is a major concern, so you can just make an agent saying, go get me the latest monsoon chart from IMD every morning. Markets, unfortunately, दुनियादारी करना पड़ता है. You have to kind of know these things, and then of course you can go in here and say top gainers and losers yesterday, apart from me. And again, like, this is LiveView, okay, which we'll come to later. Reminders, of course. Remind me to prepare for the talk, okay, and you do this, and on the mobile you can just swipe it away and it will manage your reminders. Okay, I don't agree with this, like, give your agent access to your email. What I do is I have a forwarding setup. The agent has his own mailbox, and I can say check email, and it will check the email. Now, this is one I'm reasonably proud of. This one, I want to know what's going on in the war, but you can either monitor the situation or you can sleep, and I also like my sleep, so I said, okay, agent, monitor the situation. So he gives me this pretty dense thing, and then he also writes a newspaper for me every day, okay? Weather agent, Panchang. You'll be surprised how much effort Indian civilization has put into measuring the passage of time and ascribing meaning to it. These are all the ways, did you know this? It's fascinating. These are all the ways in which you can mark the passage of time. Crazy, it's super sophisticated. I have a theory behind this, but for later, okay? Of course, what is Karinda's business model? It is this puja ke liye samagri mangao, okay? And this is where we hook in our agentic e-commerce. Okay, you will not believe this. I have an agent whose name is Opeth Prep. Opeth is a great band, one of the bands that I never got into, and I feel like I missed out. And they're playing in October, and I have an agent whose job it is to play Opeth. First it said that every song, every album. I said, I don't want every song, every album. I want to know their main songs, and this is the tour in support of their latest album, so I want to be familiar with their main works and the last album. So you're the Opeth Prep agent, your single has listened. Oh, acha, he's not updated his this thing. And I have tools are a fundamental requirement for agents. I have a Spotify tool, and so now you can control Spotify, you can do home automation, you can do all of these things just by talking to them. You can have a home assistant. Anyone use home assistant? When Karinda gets his WhatsApp number, he will be able to order sabzi from Gupta ji. We don't order sabzi from Swiggy. हमारा गुप्ता जी हैं, उनको WhatsApp पे मैसेज जाता है, सब्जी घर आता है. So this is something Karinda can do, and then later you can do things like every time you eat a meal, just anyway, if you have a teenager, they love taking photos of food, so you just ask them to take a photo of the food, and then Karinda can kind of figure out meal prep, sabzi mangana hai, and it can observe and see ki on weekends we like to eat something puri aloo biryani, and on weekdays it's like a little more basic. So it can learn about you, and after a while Karinda is like a member of the family, the major domo of your house. This was this thing behind it. I'll stop now with the demo. Any questions, comments?
Why did you choose Elixir? We haven't touched.
There's a whole section behind this.
So what we have built here is basically one orchestrator and a whole marketplace of around, I guess, 25-30 agents, all working together with their own tools.
When you say marketplace, I feel we might not be on the same page. What do you mean by marketplace?
I mean, not marketplace, words-wise, I'm not sure.
Like a team of agents.
A lot of agents, a pool of agents.
Yes, and you can build an agent like this. Can you think of a good use case for an agent?
Get feedback for this.
थोड़ा और tool use में problem होगा. Something from the internet perhaps.
Ticket booking. Train ticket.
Keep an eye on.
Train.
Book a ticket.
Yeah.
Actually, these agents are more like recurring tasks.
Keep an eye on flight prices.
Okay.
Tech events in
Great. Given the current jet fuel crisis, our summer holiday plans are in jeopardy. We should watch Skyscanner for great deals. Make an agent.
Which API's model are you using in the background?
You can set it here. Sorry, I want medium thinking for this, and when you change the thinking model, mainly it is Kimi from OpenRouter, Kimi K2.6, but you have three. Later I will make the model router invisible to the user, right? There will be a model router which says, is this a basic task, does it require thinking, or is it programming, in which case it will choose Opus 4.7, which is the powerful model. And then on the medium, the Chinese models, they put a lot of gunk in it. One of the things that you might want to observe is that, of course, the two are, sorry. Is that Opeth? So the Opeth agent is doing his thing. It just didn't have permission to start Spotify or something. So you can see that they are both connected to the, this doesn't have a live indicator, but, and you can, of course, because you would be a fool if you let your agent work unsupervised, you can see the raw transcript of the whole thing. And Elixir is so cool. I had refactored this chat view, but before I did so, it would maintain 300 words in a memory, and every time the agent streamed, it would FIFO, and these 300 words would be showed to you in that thinking this thing. And it is trivial to actually send those 300 words every 5 seconds to fast model and just get back what it is doing, right? This is the kind of thing that Elixir makes completely trivial. Now, one of the things that we are going to learn about agents is that you can't treat agents like computers. They are more like humans. You ask them to do something and you look away as they stumble around. Who has kids here? So you know what I'm saying. You have to look away as they stumble around and fuck up, and you don't say anything, and eventually they figure it out and they come back having done it. So this is why this was a first-class concern that I should be able to dismiss the agent at any time.
Cross-eyed looks, I need to clarify. So we're talking about kids and parenting done right.
Yes.
So I'll pull my hand down.
Eh?
I'll pull my hand down with it.
I'm sure you're doing it right. But, but okay, now, okay, questions?
You're actually pursuing this as something that you want to build, deploy, sell kind of thing.
No, it's a open source thing. There are a couple of reasons I'm doing this. One is because all agents suck, and we need an agent that doesn't suck. Okay. The second is I don't see any reason why there is no good AI open source thing out of India. I'm guessing agents is a large enough space that if someone capable takes this up, they will build a really like OpenClaw level or Hermes agent level. You can take it all the way there. Thirdly, I want everybody to build agents. So I'm going to open source it once I'm sure there are no secrets in there. I will open source it so that you all can also contribute and grow your agent credentials. Like I said, the one thing that you need to do to secure employment, great employment, this skill is actually really, really rare because it requires a thing called metacognition. Cognition is thinking, which you need to do to program, but to program agents, you need metacognition, which is you need to think about thinking. What can the agent see? How is the agent responding? What will the agent do next? Kind of build a model of somebody else's mind in your mind. Okay. The agent may or may not do his job, at which point we will just keep talking to it till it does it. Now, questions?
Do the agents talk to each other yet, or can they?
There is an open thing about agent routing. Yes, there will be. If you ask the wrong agent to do something, like I'm like, why do I need to go to the reminders agent to set a reminder? I should be able to just in any random chat say, oh, by the way, remind me about this in 3 days, and it should. Basically. So I haven't figured out exactly how to do that yet. I haven't figured out exactly what is the difference between a tool, a widget, an agent. Like every time I take a decision, I bump up against some trade-off that I had not considered earlier. As I said, it is pure slop. I'm just failing forward at each time.
Somebody had a very interesting question about how do you think about product. This is the blueprint.
Build useful software for yourself. Number one thing. And I have a technique that I've deployed earlier. I'll tell you about it later. Sorry, how am I doing on time?
I had a question on tools.
Uh-huh.
All of this literally hinges on all the tools that you have available in that interface.
You can just generate a new tool at any time you want.
Yeah, so are those tools also AI slot, like they have also been generated by prompting, or are you using something that's externally available? Or
no. So one of the things, security, where your biggest security vector is downloading skills and tools from the internet.
Yep.
With Karinda, you never need to do that. If you want something, you ask it to build it for you, and when it is capable enough. And here's the other thing which we are not prepared for. The age of ephemeral application, right? I'm planning a holiday, Karinda just makes a holiday planner application and is gone. Or even I'm going to spend a day out on a picnic, forget holiday, right?
Do you also believe that applications and softwares as we perceive it today, like when you open up your phone, there are 7, 8, 10, 20, 35 odd applications. One of my personal hypotheses is that there is a convergence at which time all the services like your Google Pays, your Book My Shows, etc., they'll all become API products. And essentially, there will be just one thing which will be your phone that you will operate on. And this kind of ties into it. So do you also believe in that?
Yes, 100%. I am not even joking. This has the possibility to become Google or Android, let's say. Not Google, but Android.
Prescriptive interfaces are dying.
Right? Ephemeral applications built within sort of, because you don't want to scare the user too much either, like, cursor user here will know what I'm talking about. So it has to be familiar every day, but it has to be evolving, it has to be ephemeral, it has to know you. All of this is possible now. Software builders, operating system builders, sure they're thinking about it, but the space is still wide open. And I think that is why so much money is being paid for the OpenClaw, and Google is dropping one, and Anthropic is trying all of this. But okay, I will show you something about Anthropic. Okay, here. Okay, we'll do it again. We will do it. I'm pressing enter in between. It does nothing. Okay, and then I'll show you how that's supposed to work.
Sorry, what was the thing that you were showing?
When I show you how Karinda does it, you will see what I'm saying. Okay, and I'll give you a better example. What's happening? The agent, you said this, and the agent tried to figure out what you're doing. It was thinking, and then you said 5 other things, and at some point the agent said, okay, I'm done with this thing, I'm ready for new input, and something has to collate all of that and pass it to the agent. And then at the end of the day, when I hit reload, what it's supposed to get is, when the agent has stopped doing everything, what it's supposed to get is the session file rendered as this. This is a very interesting distributed systems data structures question. because there are three inputs. There's the user input, there's the agent thinking, streaming, etc., and then there's the final session file, which all have to be collated into one thing. So like I'm saying, these are the nuances of agent experience that you will only get by building an agent. And if you can talk intelligently about these, there are people willing to fat stacks of money at you.
Currently, does the agent understand if it is trying to do some kind of research? Does it understand the quality of the source that it is trying to source from?
It depends which model you choose,
Okay.
right? Karinda is just an orchestrator.
Okay. So I'll have to put that input and guardrails around how it judges the source to retrieve that quality of data I'm looking at.
Karinda, a private household assistant, agents that live in your house. Of course, you have to buy a Mac Mini so it will run properly. So every tile is an autonomous agent, and every agent mostly waits. Okay, so there's the tile on your screen. Karinda is the Elixir app that runs and watches over everything, and then the agent's own processes. By the way, the agent isn't in the Elixir app. The agent is Pi. You know Pi? Yes. So why? Because I want to actually secure the kernel from user. So I wanted two separate things, and since Pi is actually quite well distributed, well known, well supported.
The functional code and the implementation, right?
Thank you very much. Yes. So, and you can see a demo of that over here, where you can see that these are all my running Pi sessions. There is even a Reaper, love that name, which will go and kill idle Pi sessions so you don't run out of memory. Okay. Okay, the loop runs in Pi, the Beam only hosts it. And there's a thing called Pi X. X is Elixir, this thing. Pi X does the difficult work of translating from Elixir. Elixir has this concept of gen servers. It's a process that just runs, and it's a gen server that coordinates with your Pi instances. Every conversation, every live agent is new Pi. Chats stay warm across messages. A refresh run does its one turn and is reaped. Abort cancels the turn but keeps the Pi warm. So Pi, of course, has a startup cost. So once you start it up, it stays warm until it's reasonably certain you don't need it anymore, and then you add a tool by asking for one. You just talk to it and it will create the tool that you want. Because the household is non-technical, the only interface anyone has is chatting, so the runtime can't need an engineer to add a capability. It has to author its own extensions conversationally as a built-in loop. The problems with agents is that it is a highly concurrent situation, or rather it should be, which is, I think, a problem no one has really tackled seriously, because if you want to say two things to Claude, you have to open up two terminals. And a terminal is a process, and this is equivalent to opening up a process and then another process inside it, or using another process to start another process, and then you can talk with it, rather than just being able to tmux your way around, right? Okay. Agents also need to be isolated from each other. If one of them goes down, it shouldn't take the whole house down with it. Okay. It should be addressable. You have to know, in Unix terms, the PID, but the PID itself is not enough. And I'll tell you some of the things that the Beam gives you, and I will tell you also what the Beam is. Fourthly, because it is concurrent and because users are using it, updates need to ship to the front end reliably and in a sophisticated way. For example, like I said, I want to see a summary of your latest 300 words of thinking. I don't want to see the whole thinking thing. I want to summarize kind of the direction you're going in and show me like little summaries. This should be possible for the correct UX. Every screen sees the same thing instantly, and you need to be able agents to hot reload themselves. Right? All of these are first-class concerns for a personal agent. In JavaScript, there's one shared event loop, and then you have these promises, right? And who remembers callbacks? Okay, yeah. So JavaScript is a pig, and promises are lipstick on a pig, because you need to write async everywhere, right? And you can't call a sync in an async way, and anywhere in your stack, in any library, because of course we are just vibe coding npm install supply chain attacks into our system. At any point in that whole stack, there can be one function which is not async, and the whole thing collapses. Am I right? How are you all living like this, man? I don't get it. Okay. If you want to do real concurrency, you have to run more node processes, and then you get PM2, and that's a whole other thing. And also all of this is fine as long as you're network bound, but the moment you do things that are heavy CPU bound, then every single thing in that process lags behind the heavy CPU binding. So if you do a file, read a file with fs.read file sync. Like, seems to be quite a reasonable thing to do, but for some reason it can jam up all your agents. Okay. Then you need to, this thing of I'm done, you continue, or listen for this, or the whole steering thing, it starts to become, you have to manage these points of when you're listening to what, when you're going to abort, when you're going to do this. All of this becomes your problem as the programmer. This thing of back pressure also becomes your own problem. You know what is back pressure?
Yeah.
Anyone knows? Huh? Back pressure is, say you have a consumer and the producer overwhelms the consumer. The consumer needs to tell the producer, hey, slow down. That is back pressure. Okay. So this becomes something that you need to handle yourself. I know all of you have never even considered the possibility that something could handle this automatically for you or give you the tools to handle it very easily, but there it is. Okay. All your agents share one pool of memory. If you want to split the memory, you need to start a whole other process. The problem with whole other processes is then that you can't, from one process, really look inside the other process. Many times you don't even know where to look for its PID. You don't even know that it exists or that it is running. And then you have a whole other service discovery and coordination problem, which you have to build yourself. Okay. And you can use worker threads, but it's not the correct use case for it. If there is a language which is as absurd as JavaScript, it is Python. Okay, but don't get me started. That's a whole other discussion. A lot of these interpreted languages, they have this thing called a global interpreter lock. Do you know? Okay, because they were built when computers had only one thing they could do at a time, and then everything else was one nasty hack after the other to make it do two things at a time. And so you have these threads, and when a thread is network bound or IO bound, the CPU can pick up another task. Okay, it is, but only one at a time, and so you have this global lock. And now they've tried a few things to come out of it, which is async IO. Sorry. Is this true? Pythonistas?
If you want an async function.
Yeah.
How y'all live like this?
Then doesn't this also become in some ways the syntax is literally similar to what JavaScript does?
Yes.
The entire async.
That's what I said. It's as absurd as JavaScript. If there's one language that is as absurd as JavaScript, it is Python. I think this is going to get me in more trouble than the swear words, by the way. The split is everywhere. Request is sync. HTTPX exposes both APIs, but their connection pools aren't shared. Woo! If you imagine the kind of bugs that this introduces into your system, then you're already a good engineer. If you can't even imagine it, then yes, because I can't even imagine the kind of subtle bugs that are going to come out of non-shared this thing, especially under load. Okay. Then for real parallelism, you spawn separate Python interpreters with the whole RAM tax and so on and so forth. And there is a new Python without a GIL, but it fixes nothing. Python took a decade and a half to move from Python 2 to Python 3. And when you remove the GIL, all your libraries need to be rewritten to work in a non-GIL place, in a non-GIL way, for it to even be worth the effort. And given Python's history, it's going to take another decade and a half for this to happen. So you're stuck. 3 concurrency models that don't compose freely. You choose one, you're stuck with it all the way down with its trade-offs, and you can't really make it compose well with another one. I hate interviewing Go candidates because it doesn't matter whether you are a dumb brick or you're a genius, your Go code looks the same. Go is actually a beautiful language like that because no matter who writes it, it looks the freaking same. It's wonderful. My problem with Go is it is actually a low level. It's a systems programming language and people are using it to write web applications. Why you would do that, I don't understand. But Go is actually a nice language if you're willing to put in all the effort. And it gives you good concurrency, but then everything else is on you. Everything else is on you. And here's one subtle way to look at it. Waiting on many sources of input at once is harder than it looks in Go. And as we saw in an agent, you're going to get many sources of input, like your impatient user is typing shit on the keyboard, the thinking tokens are streaming in from somewhere, user closes the window and goes away, and you have to decide to not show the thinking, expand the effort on keeping that thinking token thing because no one is looking at it. All of this coordination has to be done yourself. Okay. There's no hot code reload, no live inspection. So because it's a systems programming language, they don't really want you opening up a REPL and changing it as it is running. They want you to actually compile it and run it again. Right. There's a language called Erlang. Raise your hand if you heard of it. Okay. All your mobile networks run on Erlang. And there's a beautiful YouTube video called the Erlang documentary. Right. Which is, you have to watch, like Joe Armstrong and his team of big brain computer science nerds invented Erlang for Ericsson. That's why it's called Erlang. And telephony is a highly concurrent distributed systems problem, right? And it needs recovery. If an exchange goes down, it doesn't mean that you drop the call. Or if a cell tower especially goes down, it doesn't mean that you drop the call, you just route it to another cell tower, right? So you need this sort of distributed mesh with transparent addressing and kind of abstracted away from the actual hardware that it runs on, so that if one hardware goes down, some other node just picks it up, right? And what is the full form of Beam? What is the full form of Beam? Abhi yaar, Elixir wala. Bogdan's Erlang abstract machine. And now it's just the Beam. So it has one job: run telephone switches, millions of simultaneous calls. A call must not drop. A bug in one call must not touch another. You upgrade imagine you want to do software upgrades on a telephony network. You can't do blue-green deploys where 90% of your consumers' call drops, right? You can't. You need hot reload, live patching. Okay. WhatsApp is built on Erlang, famously. And Elixir, the language I'm using, came out. Erlang is famously horrible syntax. Only big brain programmers can use it. So another big brain programmer, one of the most underrated big brain programmers in my opinion, José Valim, was a great contributor to the Ruby community, and like everyone eventually gets, he got fed up of Ruby's concurrency. I didn't put Ruby as a contender because it's not even, right? It is really dog slow and horrible at concurrency. Not really true anymore, but at the time it was. And so he built a Ruby-ish functional programming language with beautiful syntax using all of Erlang's power, and built it on the Beam. Beam is super efficient because it has to run on hardware that is not big data centers, and it is freaking fast. It is freaking fast. And the way it does this is that everything is a process, and the process, you can only communicate with a process by sending it a message, and it has a mailbox. Each process has a mailbox, and it works through the mailbox as the messages come in. So you can't overwhelm it. It will work at its own speed. And processes have supervisors, and supervisors can be told that if this process crashes, cancel every other task after it. If this process crashes, doesn't matter, run the remaining tasks anyway. If this process crashes, restart again and keep restarting. After 5 restarts, give up. This level of programming, like you try and do this, the most mature orchestration system we have today is Kubernetes. And Kubernetes works at a where there's a PID, a pod level, right? It cannot look at individual functions inside the pod and decide whether they are to be started, restarted, crashed, cancelled, whatever. So the granularity that it gives you to do your concurrency with is incredible. Of course, there is a trade-off, is that agents share no memory. So whatever you're doing, you have to tell it everything that it needs, right?
That's true for all the agents and stuff, and the buckets has to be given every time start a conversation. Even in a conventional, non-agent conventional thing, even for them, you need to provide the entire.
No, I mean multi-threading, for example. You can, in many languages, take data from, you say thread.new,
Okay.
and you can take the
From the RAM.
state from here above it, what lexical, or from the RAM, and then if another process writes to that RAM while you're doing your thing, and then you get race conditions and all of this stuff, these are impossible because agent is like, I do this, these are my inputs, these are my outputs, or process is what they call in this thing. So you can use that as one agent, one heap, and yeah, each of them have their own heap. So they can't blow the stack. Like if some other agent blows its stack, it's only blown its stack, it cannot blow your stack, okay? And GC is per process, right? So if you have 10 agents running, each agent is garbage collected separately from every other agent. Then there is no special async definition for functions. Just spawn it anywhere without thinking, it works. In JavaScript, the function becomes async. In Python, you have to pick one of these. In Ruby, you have fibers, threads, reactors, same fight, but with different names. You do not choose a concurrency model. You just write the code, and you can say task.start. And this embed and save result doesn't need to be declared as async or nothing. Task.start says start it on some other thread, right? So I can continue.
But then if you have to wait for it, how do you wait for
You
it?
don't. Result is parse input, embed and save result. Right? I fired off through two threads, one to save the result, one to notify workers, and one to return the result. So these two are doing their thing. It's fire and forget.
Embed and notify will do their work.
Yes.
After the other.
Yes. After no. They start at this point. At this point, embed and save results starts. Then this one starts, and you don't care what happens to them. You come back here, you return your result to the caller, and continue. This is the philosophy of Erlang, let it crash. That's why you can just fire things, because you can declare supervisors. Someone else sends a message to a process, the process does something, it crashes, the caller doesn't care, right? The supervisor cares. And the supervisor is told a strategy of how to deal when the crashes. Ignore it, retry it how many times, do exponential back off, all of these things you can put in there. And because all of these threads are so cheap, the supervision becomes very cheap as well, right? So the supervisor can restart, has the option to escalate it after this thing. So it's a very sophisticated this thing. Again, we said if a mailbox grows, like you can't tell a process to do something, you can only send it a message. You can't just kick off a process. You can send it a message to start, and it will start when it's worked its way through its mail.
If your queue depth increases, how do you handle that then?
That's a separate problem. You can have another process monitoring the queue depth, and so the supervisor process can then take calls on what to do, right? And each of these processes can be receiving messages, and you don't actually need to say anything special. There's no special invocation. There is no event listeners to add. There is no signals to thread through the callers and callees. You can just say receive LLM token or tool result or user message or whatever. Right? And if 30 seconds you get nothing, you handle it timeout. Some equivalent pseudocode over here in JavaScript is not that many more lines, but the conceptual load of this model is actually much higher. The Beam brings its own pub sub. So you don't need Kafka, you don't need RabbitMQ, you don't need anything. It's durable pub sub built into the runtime.
Is it built into Erlang or is it built into Beam?
Beam. But the difference is nothing. Yeah, it's nothing now. The only way to use Erlang is on the Beam. It's super cheap. Erlang is super efficient. How many MB does a Java program need to include the JVM?
More than 200 MB?
The Beam is 10 MB.
There are 10.
Yes. It's 10 MB for all of this. Right? So you can write Erlang apps that run on mobile phones with full Beam. In fact, because it's a distributed node, you can write a mobile phone which is a node of a server process, and they share memory as like the server can just address a node on your mobile phone transparently. It's absolutely alien technology. Only problem is Erlang deployment is still a little problematic. There's work going on it, so it can compile down to a single binary, and then it's easy to just ship the binary. A lot of the other thing, such as blue-green deploy, etc., these are all handled first class by the Beam. So you can just do away with all of this shit except for Postgres. Beam has its own Redis. It's called ETS. I used to know the full form, so you can, and in fact that where you saw that steering demo, like live chats are held in the ETS memory. And there is whenever something comes in, there's a listener listening for tokens, listening for user input, listening for thinking streams, and its job is to maintain the ETS correctly, and of course the session file. So every time the session file updates, there is a file watcher which sends the session file to the ETS, and then the ETS figures out what is the correct, process figures out what is the correct order in which to show the messages, right? All of this is pub/sub. The whole thing, like I showed you, you start something here and this card on a separate window also updates. That's all pub/sub. I have a Reaper. It's this. On the init, you say every 60 seconds, send yourself this message sweep, and then handle info is the catch-all. It catches the message for sweep, and it does this, whatever it does. Looks at pipe processes, see how long they've been running, idle, etc., cuts them, right? This is comparison with Kubernetes, which is like the closest thing, but Kubernetes is a club when you need a scalpel. So, and that's why, so some of these are this thing. LiveView, by the way, if you have not, go look at some YouTube videos on LiveView. LiveView takes the radical view that there is no client-side state. And all you React people, you've been recreating your whole business domain on the front end so that you can show a div. And LiveView says that is absurd. Or rather, Jose Valim, he's a big brain. He has come with a very sophisticated point of view that there is client-side state or front-end state. But front-end state is how far you have scrolled down the page. And which element you were hovering over when the page reloaded, right? This is front-end state. How many unread messages you have is not front-end state, brother. Like, why? What? Are you kidding? Anyway. So to get one streaming token with React, you have to go through this REST endpoint to kick off.
Like 2 minutes or question towards the end? Like
As you wish. Huh?
Like I think both of you all agreed to this, but like in React, for example, so I'm assuming all of this state then comes from the backend, like server side.
Yes.
Rendered.
Yes.
Doesn't that one increase the load on the servers to stream everything? Increases your cost?
It only sends the diff.
Even if, so it only sends that, so let's say for example in React, the state that we end up maintaining is how many number of unread messages do you have right now. So if it's 5, it's going to save it in your state. Then once you refresh it, it renders immediately. One, the rendering is faster, you don't need to query the server again. everything is so much faster and smoother. Not even the server is hit again to get the diff.
Same. But it is, when you read a message,
Yeah.
something on the server is updating the unread message count, right?
When you're reading the message, yeah, something is updating.
Yes. And now this new count you have to send back to the server, to the client.
Yes.
So that's the same. This overhead of actually marking the message as read is the same in both cases.
Okay, so the reason why we came to a JSON kind of a transport layer is because we also want different clients. For example, mobile and HTML. The server still sends the same data, but the way mobile renders it or the way web renders it, it's different. Right? So let's say pre-JSON era, the server still sends.
This I agree.
Right?
This I agree. It's still an unsolved problem in LiveView, but that is not a problem with React. That is a problem with the JSON API. Okay, and to turn a LiveView is just one view of an endpoint. Right? So in Phoenix, you can have the live endpoint and the JSON endpoint or the GraphQL endpoint or whatever. And now there's a framework called Ash where you just describe what you want and it will create all of these endpoints for you deterministically, programmatically. It will generate the code for these endpoints. So actually, a separate JSON endpoint or a GraphQL endpoint is not a big deal in Elixir anymore.
But still introducing the same thing, right? I mean, like, because it can't render through Beam on mobile, that's why we need something else.
Yes.
JSON.
Yes.
What
But do you need React?
That was piggyback on that and create. Okay, so the state is the JSON now, like and
Yes.
rendering the component based on the state. Right?
Yes.
So it's kind of reusing the JSON because now different clients, same server. You could have different endpoints for HTML ke alag and JSON ke alag, but the point of JSON is just to have a unified way of talking, right?
Yes, maybe, but Mob does that. So there have been two attacks on this. One is LiveView native, and the second is Mob. LiveView native got to a very promising place, but it ended. I don't know exactly why it ended, but it ended. And then Mob is very promising. But these are LiveView applications with the native rendering capability. Right? So it is still open work to bring LiveView to the other. So the mobiles are a solved problem, and then desktop native apps, I'm sure they'll figure something out, right? But frankly, browsers are good enough now. Put a little shell around it, open a web view, you're mostly done. Everything's just a chat app now. A React component with local state, WebSocket, you need to make sure that your server is speaking WebSocket. You need to handle that WebSocket yourself, including the authentication of those sockets, right? A React component with local state, a reducer to fold the tokens into the state. Your, what do you call it? Axios, not Axios, what is it?
What? A reducer to fold tokens.
The state management, Zustand.
Redux, Zustand and Redux.
Redux, yes, that's right, okay. Then an effect to subscribe and unsubscribe, one more effect in your 70 lines of effects at the start of every file. Error handling at every boundary, suspense states, loading states, this, that, and the other, everything, all done. And you need data structures that perfectly mimic the data structures in your database. It's too much cognitive load. Y'all deserve better. And of course, you need a back-end team and a front-end team, right?
That's the reason why I released my app for TypeScript, because the language barrier is not limiting the back-end team. Yes, the framework is still different.
It's not the language barrier that matters. It is all of this busy work that you need to do to get state from the back-end into the front-end. And historically, there have been good reasons to do this. And DHH's last year's keynote from RailsConf, he says, explains this very nicely, is that there was very good reasons to do this. The browsers updating one DOM element in the browser was not a thing. So you had to do it in JavaScript. Today browsers can update just one. They also do this thing called what? Page holding. The browser figures out which is your nav bar, etc., 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 and you don't need to do anything anymore. I know none of you have noticed because all of you are writing React, but if you give the correct invocation on the HTML tag, the browser will hold that between page refreshes.
So
Which
they will refresh the entire page.
yes.
Is it also a function of how infrastructure was back 20 years ago?
Completely.
And how we adapted to get better experiences, but the infrastructure is now caught up and we can think about going back to.
Absolutely, absolutely. There is one big unsolved problem here, as in not unsolved, there's one big change that you need to make, is that each time you render a page again, you need to call all the functions in that page again. Right? And what React allowed you to do was call only the update function for that one widget. So this expensive data calculation that you didn't need to do, you would isolate that. And if you can write your program so that nothing is expensive, then yes, in fact, DHH calls out that the SSD was one big reason why we don't need to do this anymore. Because when disks were slow and you had to regenerate the whole page, oh my God, you had to get out of there. You had to. So React has done very foundational, seminal work in pushing the state of browsers to a place where you don't need it anymore. And I think we all should thank React for its service and consign it to the Hall of Fame and never use it again.
But if you don't need use effect anymore.
Great.
Just FYI.
Yes, new week, new FYI. Right? Until next week when it says actually use effect was great. We are bringing it back. Build the thing, pick the runtime that bends with you. If you are ignoring Elixir all along and you are curious to pick it up, I have to warn you, it will ruin your life because Elixir pays really well, but there are not so many jobs for Elixir noobs, okay, which you will be if you start Elixir now. And you will not be able to use any other language after that. You will say, I deserve better than this, okay. Having said that, do try it out. It is mind-bending. Don't try it out like I did where I vibe slopped the whole thing. But I've been following Elixir for a long time and I kind of knew the philosophy behind it and so on. You guys should handwrite a few Elixir programs, especially start with Phoenix. Phoenix is the Rails, or there is really no JavaScript equivalent to Rails. Django, right? And then there is Ash. Ash is absolutely another big brain attack on, like everyone got sick of writing CRUD apps and they say you just declare the business domain and the framework takes care of everything else. Fantastic. And of course LiveView. Once you go LiveView, you will reconsider all your life choices.
Is it similar to Hotwire?
In the same way that 747 is similar to Wright Brothers' first aeroplane. I'm done. Questions, comments, heckles?